Sydney with Tastefully Frugal, and today we are going to be adding HTV to faux leather notebooks. Now this is a project that I've been asked several times to make. It's one that I get questions on a lot when projects get ruined or don't turn out right, saying, I followed the manufacturer's directions for time and temperature and it ruined my notebook. What did I do wrong? So in this video, not only will I show you how to add HTV to these faux leather notebooks, but also what not to do so you don't end up with notebooks that look like this. I've made several notebooks, I've made several mistakes, but I'm happy that I did because now I made the mistakes for you and you don't have to make them. So let's go ahead and start with the number one thing is the HTV that you use. These faux leather notebooks are very heat sensitive, so you want to make sure that you're using an HTV that doesn't require a high temperature. So for this notebook, we are using Caesar Twinkle HTV. Some other great options are Caesar Sparkle. Caesar has a metal line, also the Starcraft Soft Flex line. It's a mouthful, but you want to have an HTV that's requires right around 300 degrees or less in terms of the temperature that you need for your project. This is also a really good project to do if you don't have a heat press. You can totally use a heat press for this, but you can use a household iron too. I am going to be using the Easy Press Mini, and I'll be sharing tips on with using the Mini as well as a household iron to make sure that you aren't scorching or burning your notebook. A few other things that you'll want to have handy for this project. I like to have a measuring tape. That way we can measure our design. I found you can totally use a ruler, but measuring tapes are a little bit easier to use when you're trying to get exact dimensions. Also, with any HTV project, I like to have a lint roller handy just to clean the surface ahead of time. This is really important with infusible ink, but I've kind of just gotten the habit of doing it with all HTV projects as well, just to make sure that there isn't, any microscopic dirt or debris or things like that that can get pressed into your blank with the heat. Another necessity when you are doing these HTV on these faux leather notebooks, you absolutely need to have a Teflon sheet or a parchment paper. You want something that is going to protect your notebook from the heat that you're getting. So I am going to be using my Cricut Joy to cut the Caesar Twinkle HTV. I'll share some tips on the best settings to use as well. If you've ever had issues with cutting Twinkle HTV before, I'll show you a little trick that I do to make sure that it cuts through every time perfectly. So let's go ahead and head into Design Space first to show you how I get everything set up for this project, and then we'll get started crafting.
Okay, so we have a blank canvas in Design Space, and we are going to go to Images, and I'm just going to search Working on My PhD. This is a Design Space image that is included with Cricut Access. But if you click the three little dots up there in the right corner, it'll give you some information. One, it'll tell you what the image number is, but also if you click View Image Set, it will show you what image set this belongs to, and it gives you other similar images. So this image set is really great for these craft notebooks or making signs for your craft room or shirts or things like that. There's a lot of really great crafty designs or sayings that are included in this, but I'll go ahead and just do this. I'm working on my PhD and add this to my canvas. The first thing we want to do is to resize our image. So I already measured my notebook, and I know that 3.5 inches wide is going to be the perfect width for this design. And then you'll see over the layer panels, we have two panels. We only want to, or two layers. We only want to do one. So I just clicked attach in that bottom right corner, and it's going to put it so it's just cutting out in one color. Since we are using the Cricut Joy, I'm selecting on matte, and then I am going to mirror my image. Once your image is mirrored, go ahead and make a note of how big you want your design to be, or your HTV to be, so that you can cut it down to size, which I'll show you here in just a second. Next, we are going to connect our machine to Design Space so we can select our material. Now, I've cut Twinkle several times on with my Joy and with other Cricut machines, and I found the best setting that you want to do is the glitter iron-on setting, but change the pressure from default to more. Now, the more pressure will cut it with the Explorer line or the Maker line, but let me show you what I have to do with the Joy line. First, let's go ahead and cut our HTV down to size. I really like this Cricut paper trimmer. Obviously you can use it for HTV too, but I like that it has the extendable ruler so you can cut larger pieces. So we're just going to cut our size, our HTV down to a 4x4 square. And when you're cutting HTV, you can cut it with the paper trimmer with the shiny side up or down. It doesn't really matter. Just make sure that you move that paper trimmer back and forth to get a nice clean cut. Now, one thing you want to be aware when you're working with a HTV that has a pattern like this one, or any like the printed pattern HTV, make sure that you put it on your mat the direction you want your lines to go. Like, it doesn't really make a huge difference with this design because it's the same both ways, but definitely be aware of that when you're working with anything that is not just a solid color. And then just like any other HTV, you're going to want to put this shiny side down on the mat. So we'll go ahead and we will load our mat into the Joy and it will start cutting. So once your design is cut, and I told you this is sped up quite a bit, but you do not want to unload your mat right away. We're going to check it to see if it cut all the way through. The Joy just doesn't have as much pressure as the Explorer and the Maker machines do. So a lot of times with Twinkle, I have to cut it a second time. So before I unload the mat, I just peel back the backer in that top left corner, peel it back a little ways. And as you can see, as I'm peeling it back, it does not look like it's cut all the way through. Let me see if I can show you better and not show you my hand. Okay, so you can see there that it's not cut all the way through. So all I'm going to do, just press that backer back down and then click go again in Design Space. If you unload your mat, it could cut differently, but as long as the mat is still loaded and you have it do a second cut through, it will cut through on those same lines exactly where the first cut was, and it should get a clean cut. I've also done it with magnet sheets and other thicker materials too. So if it's a new material you haven't used before, I definitely suggest checking it before you unload your mat. So if you do need to do a second cut through, it doesn't ruin your design. So let's go ahead and check again. This is after the second cut. As you can see, it looks like it cut through perfectly. So I will go ahead and unload the mat from my machine, and then I'll finish weeding this design once it's off the mat. So once you have it off the mat, just weed your design like usual. I really like the stab and grab tweezers. I think I said it before, they are my favorite weeding tool. Just make sure you get all the centers of everything and double check your design once everything's weeded from the front to make sure that you aren't missing anything. All right, let's go ahead and get started pressing our HTV. I'm using the Easy Press Mini, and I'm going to do the lowest heat setting. Like I mentioned before, these journals are very heat sensitive, so you don't want to have a lot of heat. And then I'm just going to use a lint roller to clean off the cover of the journal and just place my design right in the center. I made it so that it was center with that strap that comes along, because I didn't want the strap to rub against the design once it was pressed on. Then you'll just put your Teflon sheet down, and you'll want to move your Easy Press Mini with very light pressure. And I only do it for about 5 seconds and then check it. So you'll do it for 5 seconds and then peel the backer away slightly to see if if it has stuck. If it hasn't stuck, you can put it down. But it is totally okay to have to move to check 2 or 3 times. It's better to have to check more times than to scorch your design. So I checked 3 times. This is the 4th press I'm doing, and I just missed one little line there. And as you can see here, as I'm peeling this back, everything is sticking. And then to make sure that we have a nice the iron HTV is on the journal, I'm just going to put my Teflon sheet back onto top of it and just run the Easy Press Mini over it for about 5 seconds. You can do these same settings with your household iron too, and there you have your notebook. So let's take a look at this finished notebook. I want to show you some differences between the finished one that turned out well and the one that didn't turn out so well. So looking close here, you can see that it's just the HTV. You don't have any adhesive that is out. You don't have any burn marks or anything like that. Looking at this other journal, this was the 2nd or 3rd journal I did. You'll see here that there's some glue that is sticking out of this Twinkle HTV. It was heated too much. Obviously, I messed up on the metal, but you can also see I did not use a Teflon sheet here, and I burnt the notebook with that Easy Press Mini. So always use a Teflon sheet, and definitely don't overheat your design.
These faux leather notebooks are perfect if you, like me, have projects that are half done and you want to keep track of your crafts that you're doing. If you have a journal that you like to do journal entries, or even a dream journal, which was my original plan with the first journals that I worked on. But these are really great to have, and they're super easy to customize when you know how to do it without burning your notebooks. So I hope that you found this video helpful. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. And I'll get back to them as soon as I can. If you'd like this video, I'd love to have you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Tastefully Frugal for more Cricut tips, tricks, and tutorials. And if you'd like to craft with me live, join me over on the Tastefully Frugal Facebook page every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time for live crafts. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.